Hey guys, Shasta here. Now, in this video, I'm actually going to be doing a look at basically the campaign for Normandy, looking through each of the levels, and really pointing out which levels look great. Like, they look, the unlocked for those levels look great, but in reality, they're not that good. They're okay, or they're just bad in general. Now, I won't be including premium squads, so the premium stuff, so nothing like this bloody M50, whatever. I also won't be including the squads themselves, because, let's face it, the squads, it doesn't really matter about the squads. They're all fine, pretty much all squads are good. Rather, I'm looking at, basically, just all of this, and saying, which one of these, which level ups are bad. I'll be doing it for the Allied, and I'll also be doing it for the Axis in this video. So, yeah. I'll start with the Allies, going all the way, to what I think to the first one, and then working my way up. Anyways, let us begin with the first thing, which looks great, but really isn't. First off, let's start with the level 5 unlock for the Allied, the M1 Carbine. Now, the Carbine, it looks fine, an early game semi-auto rifle that you can get before the Germans get their semi-auto rifle. So, it looks great, but here's the thing with this. The Garand is 2 levels later, and it's not like these are, so it's not like, say, the Thompson, being a few levels away from Thompson, though we'll get to that later. Spoilers, but, this will take bare minimum, like, say you'll get it, for me, this would take 3 matches to get enough XP to get to the M1 Garand from the M1 Carbine. It took me a little bit less, a little bit more I meant, but I don't know. The M1 Carbine I'm sure I've made a video on this already. Yeah, I have. It's not the best, so yeah. And the M1 Garand, in my opinion, is better than it. It's better in every way. It's got better damage. Only thing the Carbine has is it's better with a better magazine. It's slightly better in closer range than the Garand, but the Garand's just better at longer ranges, and it's just really good. It's just a great weapon, the Garand. Anyways, let's move on to the next unlock, which, looks great, but really isn't. Next up is the M3A1 Grease Gun, which is the level 9 unlock. Now, if you saw my videos, you know I do not like the Grease Guns at all. And I have said that the M3A1 is much better than the level 1 Grease Gun. But, holy shit, this thing is still pretty bad. Like, I actually have said many times, the Allies do not get a good SMG until level 22. And that's the stem. Like, literally, you don't get a good SMG until the stem. Now, the stem itself is an okay SMG, but the problem with the Grease Gun is it's got slow rate of fire. Even this one, which has a better rate of fire, and when you have upgrades, you can use it. It's usable as an SMG, but by the time you get the Sten, which is an actual good SMG, you're never going to use the Grease Gun anymore. Which is, for a start, you have to use this Grease Gun until a long level, so it's kind of a bit of a pain. But yeah, it's not worth it in my opinion. It's a really rubbish SMG. It's one of the worst SMGs in the game. Like, I would argue the only SMG for the Allies in Normandy which is worse is the M3 Grease Gun, which is just statistically worse. Anyways, let's move on to the next unlock, which is not worth it. Coming in level 14 is the level 14 one, which is of course the Springfield M1903A4. Now, the A4 is just awful. It's an awful bolt action. Like, awful sniper rifle. The A1 is a better sniper rifle than the A4. The only thing the A4 has is that it's got a quicker bolt speed. Pullback speed, which I guess it's fine then, but when you've got, but the problem is that this is a, it's essentially the same weapon as the level 1 sniper, and you get this at level 14. Like, what's the point? There's not really a point to this weapon. Oh god, it just flaked me all the way back. Like, compare this to, say, like, it's basically made redundant by a level 1 unlock. Like, I don't think there's a single weapon in the game that's redundant by level... Actually, there's a few, actually, to be honest. Now that I remember. But yeah, not good. Really bad unlock, in my opinion. It's really just, redundant by the base sniper rifle for the... and by the time you get to the M1 Garand with the sniper at level 21, which is not that far, by the way. It's not that far. It's not hard to get to level 21. By that point, you should be throwing these out. Anyways, let's move on to level 16. I did spoil it there at level 16. But, yeah, the Winchester Model 1912. I gave this a chance. It's shit. It is just awful. How do they mess up a shotgun? That's what I don't get. It's a shotgun. Like, you'd expect a slam-fire shotgun to be so good. But for some reason, this thing is so pointless. Like, you get... like, it barely kills. It's really hard to aim, actually. Like, I find it quite difficult to aim this thing. And it's just... oh, it's bad. Like, the Allies suffer in close range combat until you reach level 22. And this is another example of why. Because the Axis... at this point, the Axis gets the Beretta M1918, which is... it's not a bad SMG. It's not a good, it's not the best SMG. But I would think everyone would rather have the M1918 over the M1912 because, well, the 1912 is just awful. Shotguns in this game generally are quite shit, so, and it is fitting with that theme of shotguns being terrible. But I don't like this weapon at all. Which is why it is number 16. Which is why it's on this list. Let's move on to the next unlock. Which I think is pointless. The next unlock is literally the exact next level. It is the M1 Carbine with the grenade launcher. Now, I think the grenade launcher is really good. I generally do like this weapon. It's a pretty cool weapon. But the reason I have to put it here... I'm sorry, I have to address it. The elephant in the room. The M1 Garand again. Now, this one is a little bit... it's not as bad as the M1 Carbine, M1 Garand, being literally 2 levels apart. This is actually a good... I would say nearly 20 levels apart. But I'm going to have to address the M1 Garand with the grenade launcher with this. Now, the Garand with the grenade launcher, it's a Garand and it has a grenade launcher on it, so you can't go wrong with that. The Carbine with the grenade launcher is fine. It's just that I just think the Garand with the grenade launcher is just probably going to end up being better. Like, I mean, the main reason is because the Carbine with the grenade launcher, the main problem with it is once you use up all the grenades, you just got the Carbine again, which is not the best. Whereas if you have the Garand instead, it's going to be a lot better. And I believe that they do fire heat grenades as well with the Garand launcher, so... hey, it's okay, I guess. But compared to later options, it's not worth it. Most of the time I prefer either using the Garand or the M2 over this, so... yeah. This is where it shows up. Let's move on to the next unlock, which is, in my opinion, not as good as advertised. This one's going to be a pretty controversial one, but I'm going to have to go with the Lancaster on the premise that it's just wedged in between the Sten, which, yeah, it's a better version of the Sten, don't get me wrong. It's got better sights, better everything, really, than the Sten. So, yeah, but there's also the Thompson, which is, in my opinion, just a much better weapon than the Lancaster. And don't get me wrong, the Lancaster is a really, really good weapon, but it's just awkwardly wedged in the tech tree, and like I would still say this is a really solid weapon, a really solid SMG, and one of the best in the game, but the fact is it's just lodged, you know, haphazardly in between a weapon which is, you know, it beats, and then a weapon that's much better than it. And that's what's sad about the Lancaster. It's just, it's okay, but it's not, and it's a good weapon, but it's just surrounded by great weapons. Anyways, let's move on to the next weapon. Here we go. It's the M1 Bazooka. Now, given how controversial I was already with the Lancaster, the Bazooka. My problem with this is, well, the Bren is just not the Bren. The Piat is a much better alternative. Now, the Piat just is so good. You know, it's one of the best anti-tank weapons in the game. I'd argue this is the only weapon which is better is the Panzerfaust. And when you're being compared, and when the Panzerfaust is the only thing which is better, you know you've done it's a really good weapon. Now obviously both Panzerfausts are better than the Piat, and they're both better than the Bazooka. The Bazooka really isn't that good. The M1 Bazooka. Now, the reason I think what they need to do is they need to add the M9, which I believe they're planning on adding the M9 around the time they add the Panzer Shrek. If they do add the Panzer Shrek, obviously, they'll probably add the M9 as well. Which would be pretty good, in my opinion, but I don't know. I don't like the Bazooka. I don't really like. There's a reason I still use the Piat, because it's just so good, and it reliably kills everything. The Piat reliably kills everything. The Bazooka, you know, the only thing the Bazooka has is range. Like, that's the only thing that's good about the Bazooka. You can fire, like, halfway across the map. Like, I'll give it that credit, but other than that, it's not that good. Like, a Piat can one-shot a Panther relatively easily, whereas I've yet to... Like, I fired multiple Bazooka rounds into the Panther's weak spots and have yet to kill this thing with this thing. It's really not that good, in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. I don't like the M10, really. The M10... Is he really the only tank, other than the Firefly, that can take out Panthers in Normandy at the moment? But the M10 is just not that good. Like, first off, the turret speed is pants. The whole exposed commander is awful. I hate it. I always hate that. You know, no machine guns, which is another thing I hate, because I love having machine guns, you know, to take down infantry, because I like being more of a multi-person support. Whoa! Hold on. Oh, price 0. Oh, it just opened a, That's a glitch. Yeah, I thought I could get the Firefly for free then. Oh, if I could. If only. If only. Anyways, back onto that. Back onto the M10, while we're talking about that. I don't really have much to say. Everyone knows why it's bad. The Jumbo's just so good. The Fireflies, I'd argue, is better. So if you want a good Panther killer, get the Firefly. Or just use a Piat, really. Anyways, let's move on to the final Allies. The final one for the Allies, in my opinion. Finally, we have this. The M1 Thompson. Now, this is for the exact same reason as the Lancaster. It's the M1A1. Just, the M1A1 is so good. Like, why would I want to get anything? Like, why would I use anything but the M1A1? It's such a great weapon. The only good thing about the M1 Thompson is the sights. The sights are amazing. If you could take the M1 Thompson sights and combine it with the A1's performance, I would take that in a heartbeat. But for now, I don't like the M1 Thompson. It's a great weapon, don't get me wrong. I think I put it as number 4 on the best SMGs. I think it was either it was in the top 5 at least. I can't remember, it was either 4 or 3, but it was in the top 5. But yeah, I think it's just not as good as the M1A1. So yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the Axis, and there's a lot to cover there. Oh boy. Matt, when I just remember while I was recording, just looking into this, like, I was thinking, okay, I'm writing down, I thought, man, level 5 really did not, you do not get much at level 5 for either faction in Normandy. Yeah, we all know the FNAB, we all know why it's bad, it's not that good, the magazine is awful, in my opinion, the clip size is just, the only thing it's got is the clip size, but, the fire rate is awful, the damage isn't that good, it's so slow to fire, I really do not like this weapon at all. Like, I've only made a video on this, so check that out if you want to see it. Yeah, not much to say here. Let's just go on to the next Axis weapon. Okay, this one is going to be a little bit controversial, but the MP40, in my opinion, it's so disappointing. The MP40 in most games is the best SMG. If you played World at War like I did, the MP40 was the best until you unlocked the PPSH, but that was the PPSH. The MP40 with the drum mag was so disgusting, it was amazing. But the problem in Enlisted is the MP34 is on par with it. The M1918 is better at close range, and it's redundant when you get the MP35. The only SMG which really it beats, it is slightly better than the M1918, and it is better. Of course, well, everything's better than the FNAB, but it's just not that good. Like, it's not a good it's not the perfect SMG that it is in most other games, which I think that's the thing with the MP40 is everyone expects it to be great, but it's not, which is a kind of a detriment to the weapon itself. I will say though it is great in Berlin but that's because pretty much everything's better than that MP3008 shit. Oh, that's gonna be the next video. Anyways, let's move on to the next unlock, which isn't that good in my opinion. I didn't have to go far for this one. Panzer 3N. I've said it's the worst vehicle in Normandy, and I mean, what's there to say anymore? Really bad 75mm, outclassed by everything before and after it. Really, the only thing it has is I don't know if it's still got the wonky hitbox, where it's basically impossible to kill the fucker. But, yeah, I don't like this thing at all. It's really just poor. I don't like it. It's just rubbish. It feels bad to use. It's annoying to fight. Like, when I see this thing, like, when I see a Puma, I think, oh, it's either a player who, knows how to use a Puma, or it's a new player. When I see a Panzer 4J, I think, oh, cool, this is interesting. Or a Panzer 4H, I think it's always interesting. Panthers, obviously, are just Panthers. But when I see this, I just think, oh, God. Either this guy doesn't know how to play, or he's just unlocked this thing and doesn't realise that the Puma is much better. God, I love the Puma. It's such a cool. Like, the Puma is actually, I would take the Puma over this. Let's just say that. Anyways, like, the barrel's bad. Everything's bad about this. The ammo capacity's bad. You can't see shit. And yeah, let's move on to the next unlock. Oh, what's next? Oh. I don't even, like, I'm pretty sure if you saw my video on the Axis, I lost my, I think I said like the S. I think I said shit like 20 times or something like that when describing this weapon. The Braider is awful. Yeah. Moving on. A bit of a jump from the Braider. It is the Kar 98K with the shooting cup. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I've actually accidentally mispronounced this as shitting cup. Why is shooting and shitting sound so similar in German? It's like have and hate. So are literally almost the exact same pronunciation. Anyways, enough of me ranting about the German language. It's an awesome language. Don't hate me. Don't hate. Yeah, the shooting cup. Not. Yeah, it's the same problem I have with the M1, but the problem I have with the M1 at least had something, being, it's semi-automatic. I don't like bolt actions much. I think semi-autos are better. And, just having a level 17, unlock that's just a bolt action that I've already unlocked is annoying. Now, obviously, I know it's the exact same thing with the M1 Garand and the M1 Carbine because you unlock them earlier as well. But here's the thing with those. This is the base level weapon. This is the base weapon where those you unlock actually in the tree itself. So it feels more like an evolution of the weapons rather than a, hey, remember that weapon you unlocked at level 1? Yeah, here it is again. I don't like the bolt action grenade launchers, which is hilarious because they're everywhere. The Allies Normandy are the only faction that has a semi-automatic grenade launcher. Anyways, let's move on to the next level. I hate to really sound repetitive, but the ZK really does not do much for me. Like, it's a great weapon, but it's kind of in the exact same position as the Lancaster, but that one, there was a worse weapon before it and a much better weapon after it. This one, there's a better weapon before it and a better weapon after it. It's like, why would I use this when I could use the MP35, which is a fantastic SMG, or I could wait a couple levels and use the Braider M38, which is, again, a much better SMG. It's got a really good magazine. I love the Braider. It's a really good weapon. And it's just... And there's also, of course, I'm going to have to point out the elephant in the room. The MP43. That's coming in 8 levels. So, not 8, that's... How many levels is this, actually? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Oh, it's only about... Wait. 6 levels. I was wrong then. 6 levels. I had a brain fart then. Yeah, so basically, in 6 levels, you're going to be completely... This thing is completely outclassed. In fact, it's already outclassed by... It was already outclassed 4 levels prior. Like, I remember, when I unlocked the Lancaster, I thought, oh, this is gonna be awesome. Now, it was a great weapon, but as soon as I got the Thompson, I stopped using it because the Thompson was so good. This, I never felt like, oh, this is amazing. I'm gonna use this, for the rest of the game. I just thought, man, this is rubbish. Man, this is fine, but MP35 is much better. Anyways, let's move on to the final one, which there's gonna be no, you probably already know what it is, just from what I've said already. You already know what it is. I've already said that this is the worst weapon in the Axis arsenal. So, honestly, what's there to say? It's the shooting cup, but more expensive. It is the exact same thing, the exact same reason I put the M1903A4 on here. But, but I've heard, it's had, rifle grenades. The rifle grenades can damage vehicles. I have literally seen people use all of these against the lightest tanks, like Stuarts, Scots, you know, tanks which even, you know, even people who are crap with the Sturm pistol can take out, you know, and it fails to take them out. It's not that good. It's just, I don't like this at all. Like, there's a reason why I haven't actually focused on grinding up Normandy, because like, unlike the MP43 or the M1, you know, and getting the Assaulter 3s, you know, when they came out, I was grinding for them because I was interested in them. This, I mean, what am I going to use another Rifleman squad for? I've already got the Death Brigade right here. Why would I want another one? Like, I mean, yeah, sure. Sure, yeah, a second Death Brigade is going to be great, but why? Oh, and on a side note, Stug 3G really should not be a premium squad. That's your daily reminder. Yeah, that's just been my pick on weapons that are, you know, well, they're not the, you know, they don't really justify, you know, being, you know, at what level they are. Like, some of these you could say, hey, these are, you know, they're okay, but others, you know, they get outclassed a little bit later. Obviously, I'm not going to be, like, if a weapon, like, for example, weapons like the MP35, that gets eventually outclassed, but the reason I didn't put that, and I put the ZK, is because the ZK gets basically outclassed immediately, whereas the MP35 doesn't get really outclassed until maybe level 29, even then it can hold its own against the Beretta. But really, it's only until, like, 10 levels later that you get something which is just great. Or it's just weapons that are just bad, really. Anyways, leave your thoughts in for some weapons or vehicles that could have been added. Obviously, I didn't include planes because I've only used 2 planes, which is the BF-110 and, of course, the P-47. So, yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.